Knee 3 waist implant selection screen. This screen has 4 windows. The top left window is the lateral view of the knee for the lateral side. The top right window has AP view of the knee from front, and the bottom left window has an axial view. The bottom right window has the information regarding the calculations for the planning of surgery. The 3 views of the knee have a ruler in the periphery of each window. Also, the user can click on any point in these windows to activate the scale to measure. This tool can be used to measure height, width and thickness of the patella. The 3 views of the knee cannot be further manipulated in the screen. A separate preview button is placed in the middle of the taskbar at the bottom. It allows the user to view the full 3D view of the implant from all angles with the facility to zoom through the scroll button and the facility to increase or decrease the transparency of the bone with the help of the scroll bar at the bottom. The keyboard and the mouse buttons can also be used to do the same. The information window is in 3 parts. The topmost part contains the information regarding the implant and is editable. The second part contains the details of the femoral component position. The femoral component can be moved through all 6 degrees of freedom. It also contains information regarding the native anatomic parameters of the bone like valgus angle, distal femur flexion and native rotation. The last part contains details about the tibial component position. This too can be moved through all 6 degrees of freedom. It also contains information regarding the native anatomic parameters like proximal tibial medial and the proximal tibial lateral slopes. The topmost part contains following information: the company, implant series, femur size and the tibia size. Each of the 4 headings are editable. The first company displayed will be as set by the doctor's preference in the doctor's profile. Different implants of 21 selections and 13 companies are displayed. Any one of these can be selected. The sizes of the femur and tibia are calculated on the basis of anatomic landmarks selected. The femur and tibia sizes can be changed according to the fit. The sizes of the tibia available will be dictated by the size of the femur selected, and hence only allowable sizes by the company will be displayed. For example, if the company selected is J&J and the implant series is selected as Attune. Now for the femur of size 5, tibial sizes of 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 shall be available. If the company selected is Stryker and the implant series is NRG, now then for a femur of size 6, the available tibial sizes will be 5, 6 or 7. The second and the third parts deal with the femur and tibial component positioning on the bone. Both boxes are split into 2 sections. The column on the left describes the translational movements, while the column on the right describes the rotational movements. They help the user to position the implant on the bone in its most optimal position. As the user manipulates the implant on the bone, the amount on the bone cuts are described. In the translational movements, in the first row, the surgeon can move the implant in antero-posterior direction by clicking on the plus or the minus key. By clicking on the plus sign, the implant moves posteriorly in increments of 0.5 millimeters. As it moves posteriorly, the size of the posterior cuts is reflected for both medial and lateral cuts. The third column shows the posterior implant thickness for the selected implant. The second row moves the implant in the proximal and distal direction in increments of 0.5 millimeters by clicking on the plus or minus sign. Implant thickness is shown in the third column. The aim is to closely replicate the implant thickness and to match the size of the distal and posterior cuts to achieve equal flexion and extension gaps. The third row shows the amount of anterior notching. A positive value shows the amount of bone being removed from the anterior cortex, while a negative value shows how much gap between the anterior lip of the implant and the anterior cortex at the level of the VAG anterolateral cortex anatomic landmark. There are no action buttons in this row as these values are described by the antero-posterior movements of the implant which are carried out in the first row. The fourth row allows for medial and lateral translation of the implant with similar signage buttons. As it will have no effect on the size of the cuts, no number boxes are there in that row. The right column deals with the rotations. All three rotational movements are possible in steps of 0.5 degrees. Varus is denoted by a plus sign while valgus is denoted by a minus sign. Flexion is denoted with a plus sign while extension is denoted by a minus sign. External rotation is denoted with a plus sign while internal rotation is denoted by a minus sign. For the femur, the varus, valgus and the flexion extension are calculated from the hip-knee axis, that is the mechanical axis derived from the anatomical landmarks of hip center to knee center. The external internal rotations are calculated from the surgical transepicondylar axis. It is the user or the surgeon's discretion to pick the best rotation for an individual patient. The last row in the femur box deals with the native anatomic values for the bone to help the surgeon achieve the optimal customized position of the implant for that patient. The first parameter is the valgus angle, also called as the divergence angle. It shows the angle between the intramedullary axis and the mechanical axis of the femur in the anteroposterior plane. The valgus angle is calculated from three anatomical landmarks: the hip center, knee center and the canal center for the angle, and the data on posterior condylar and transepicondylar axis to define in the coronal plane. This data can be used if the surgeon plans to use the conventional instruments instead of the knee 3-vis jig to perform the surgery. This data is not editable. If the surgeon plans for a varus or a valgus cut, as the varus or valgus changes, the valgus angle will also change to reflect the same. It also serves as a cross check to see what the finest varus valgus would be if the standard 5, 6 or 7 degrees of the cut were used. The second is the flexion of the distal femur with respect to the mechanical axis. This information is static and would not change with flexion or extension of the component. It shows the angle between the intramedullary axis and the mechanical axis of the femur in the sagittal plane. The flexion angle is calculated from three anatomical landmarks, that is the hip center, knee center and the canal center for the angle, and the data on the posterior condylar and the transepicondylar axis to define the sagittal plane. This data can be used by the surgeon to plan for the degree of flexion of the femoral component. When using conventional instruments, the same degree of flexion as intramedullary axis should be planned as the intramedullary rod guides the distal femur flexion cut. If with the conventional instruments a surgeon plans with a zero flexion cut, an error of selecting the larger component would occur as the distal cut would be guided by the intramedullary axis. If the surgeon plans to use the knee 3-vis jig or computer navigation, the degree of flexion should be preferably planned so that there is less than 3 degrees variation from the mechanical axis. Yet, the best fit component without significant overhang can be accommodated. The third data shows the degree of distal femoral rotation. The angle between the posterior condylar axis and the surgical transcondylar epicondylar axis shows the degree of distal femoral rotation. It is calculated from four anatomical landmarks, that is the posterior medial and the posterior lateral femur registrations for posterior condylar axis and the surgical medial epicondyle and the lateral epicondyle for surgical transepicondylar axis. This data can be used by the surgeon to plan for the desired external rotation of the femoral component. During the CT scan, the patella is sitting in its natural position. Hence, reviewing the rotation of the femoral component to match the patellar position serves to eliminate the landmark registration errors which might occur and helps define the optimal rotation of the femoral component to that of the individual patient. The third part deals with the tibia, and like the femur, all 3 degrees of translation and all the degrees of rotation are described and can be calculated. The tibia is cross-checked in a similar manner. The values displayed for the anterior and the posterior placement show the amount of uncovered bone from the posterior most point of the medial and the lateral condyles. The amount of uncovered bone is shown as a negative value and the amount of overhang is shown as a positive value. If there is a major lateral overhang and a lot of uncovered bone medially, internally rotating the tibia will help bridge the gap. The last row shows the degree of the posterior slope of the medial and lateral tibial condyles. They cannot be edited directly as they are dependent on point selection. Occasionally, there is a gross difference that is of more than 3 to 5 degrees in the medial and lateral slopes of the proximal tibia. As the tibial tray cannot compensate for this, tweaking the femoral rotations to achieve the better flexion gap is necessary. If the lateral slope is more than the femoral rotation would need to be decreased by few degrees. Whereas if the medial slope is more, femoral rotation would need to be increased by a few degrees. If there is a large opening up of the lateral space preoperatively, then that also needs to be factored along with the difference in slopes. Thus, 5 variables would dictate the rotations. That is the rotation of the native transepicondylar axis to the posterior condylar axis, the difference in the proximal tibial slopes, amount of lateral opening on standing films, positioning of the patella and the size of the implant. The taskbar at the bottom has the following buttons: list, save, gap balance, preview, done and back. Patient name and site are mentioned in every screen on the bottom right. The functions of preview button have been discussed earlier. Save button is used to save the desired implant, its size and position. List button is a drop down button which displays all the saved implants, their sizes and positions. For deleting the saved implant from the list, unmark all the saved implants and leave only the saved implant marked which you want to delete. After that, click on the delete button and you will delete the saved implant from the list. Done button completes the implant selection and positioning and takes the user or the surgeon to the next step for taking the measurements of jig preparation. Back button takes the surgeon to the anatomic landmark selection screen if the user wishes to make changes in the landmark positioning after reviewing the implant sizing and positioning. The gap balancing button helps to calculate the change caused by the bony cuts which will be reflected in flexion gap. The aim would be to leave the lateral gaps 1 to 2 mm larger than the medial one and the difference in the flexion and extension gap less than 2 millimeters. If there is significant soft tissue laxity, a corresponding tightening by taking laser bone cuts can be planned accordingly. Knee 3-ways jig calculation screen. The left half is the information box while the preview is on the right side. The preview is modified to show 2 planes. The plane through the posteriormost point of the implant showing the rotation profile and the plane parallel to the plane of the distal resection to the distalmost point of the implant. These planes present the distal and the posterior aspect of the knee 3-ways jig which sits on the distal femur. The scroll bar at the bottom is to reduce the transparency of the bone. There is an additional checkbox at the top left corner in the information box which when unchecked removes the implant from the bone for a more precise measurement of the anterior posterior bone. The jig needs 3 measurements: A. The antero-posterior distance, B. The size of the distal bushings, and C. The size of the posterior bushings. For the first measurement, the antero-posterior distance is the distance between the anterior cortex and the posterior point. The anterior cortex point was not recorded during the process of selecting the anatomic landmarks. The highest point on the anterolateral cortex was recorded earlier during the selection of the anatomic landmark for studying notching by the implant. The up and the down arrow keys next to the anterior cortex can be used to manipulate the position. The point sphere should be half embedded in the cortex for precise measurement. If the implant is hampering the vision, it can be removed by unchecking the box next to the implant above the cortex point in the information box. Any error in this landmark selection directly translates into an error in the anterior-posterior distance which is responsible for flexion extension placement of the implant. An error of decreasing the AP distance flexes the implant from its desired optimal position, while increasing it extends the implant from its optimal position. The posterior point is well defined through the two anatomic landmarks of the posterior medial and the posterior lateral femoral condyles and generally does not need manipulations. Despite that, changing the landmark would be possible by moving it anteriorly or posteriorly by clicking up or down arrows. Two cross checks have been incorporated into the system. First is the difference between the anterolateral cortex point and the anterior cortex point. That is, the AP distance can be seen. It is a non-editable field. A provision for cross-checking with the already selected anatomic landmarks of the anterolateral cortex is also given. The point difference is the difference in the height between the anterolateral cortex point and the anterior cortex point. If the anterior surface is markedly sloped, a difference of 2 to 3 mm may be noted. This serves as a visual cross-check. Adding the anterior cortex height and the point difference gives a total antero-posterior diameter needed for adequate implant sizing. Second cross-check is the truncated size of the implants for cross-reference. Three truncated antero-posterior diameters from the inner anterior edge of the implant to the outer posterior edge of the implant, and hence may differ from the manufacturer's manual, are given as a cross-check. The size of the implant selected and one size above and one size below are displayed. They help the user or surgeon to verify the total AP distance, whether the size is correct or incorrect. If the AP distance is smaller than the implant diameter, the implant will be in extension, and if the AP distance is larger than the implant, it will be in flexion. If there is a major mismatch, then an error is very likely to have occurred at the entire planning process might need to be revisited. The second measurement is the size of the posterior bushing and its placement, that is either on the medial or the lateral side. The box shows the size of the posterior cuts and the thickness of the bushing requirement and its placement. The bushing is placed on the side of the smaller cut, and the thickness of the bushing is the difference between the cuts. The third measurement is the size of the distal bushing and its placement, whether medial or lateral. The box shows the size of the distal cuts and the thickness of the bushing required and its placement. The bushing is placed on the size of the smaller cut, and the thickness of the bushing is the difference between the cuts. Two more buttons, that is the back and the OK, are placed at the bottom of the box. The back button allows the user to move back to the implant selection screen. The OK button takes the user to the final screen. Thank you.